And I'm Guy. And this is your home for everything Alberta independence, broadcasting live 6 days a week from Monday to Saturday from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. Let's get into it. And you're having a coughing attack.
Starting great today. Hope you're all having a great week. How are you? And thank you so much for being here. I'll say hi to all of you in a second. But first of all, thank you so much for joining us and for sharing with us your time and your attention. Please do subscribe. It really does help us out. It's what helps us out the most, actually. And also, if you didn't know, we read all your comments. So let us know what you're thinking throughout the stream. After each section, we will read them all. If we get a super chat, we do interrupt the whole show and read that first. But other than that, it's after each section.
Yeah, and I'll say I'm a little bit drowsy today. We went to downtown Mexico City. We're originally from Vancouver, but we already voted for our own independence and left the country under Justin Trudeau. We had to go to downtown Mexico City today. We stopped by this place called Randy's Donuts. It's actually from California, but they have a location here. They have the best apple fritters. The problem is they are huge. I ate a full one before, and then I brought one home and I ate half of that at home.
And I had a tiny bit of yours.
My stomach's a little upset. But
great.
Let's keep going.
Going on. Hello, and thank you for being here. Says good evening once again from Calgary, Alberta. Thank you for what you are doing, and thank all of you for what you are doing. Also speaking up, raising your voices, all the canvassers, and everybody that has signed, just in general.
Well, yeah, thank you to all of you. It really does feel like not just a grassroots movement for Alberta independence, but this show is turning into a little bit of a grassroots movement because we have so many canvassers, other content creators, and people on the ground that are giving us information that are in our chat. So it really does help us provide the most up-to-date and the best news we can to push Alberta independence forward.
And that's also why we want to continue also profiling people, interviewing people, and just getting all the voices out there to be heard. And a rising tide raises all ships. There we go.
And we did do another interview yesterday after we got off the air. That's why we went a little bit early. It was with John talking to Albertans. So
he was really nice. That interview should be coming out on Sunday. Tomorrow we have the Home with Homes interview coming out as well. So look out for that one during the morning around 11.
Yeah, originally we were only going to release an interview every Sunday because I didn't know if we were going to be able to get enough people agreeing to do interviews, but they've been extremely nice and very gracious with their time. So we're trying to release 2 videos a week now that are interviews. Okay, let's get
Rockin' Around says, hi, Nan and the Guy. Let's have a great show tonight. And I agree. Thank you for being here. Kanak says, greetings, Nan and the Guy. Thank you for being an amazing voice for Alberta independence and standing up for what is right globally. Thank you so much for those kind words. And I hate reading compliments, but I really do appreciate them. So thank you so much.
Well, and I do really appreciate when you say globally, because although we focus almost entirely on Alberta independence, right now there is another very important movement going on, and that's the farmers, the truckers, and the citizens in Ireland. When we go to Alberta and the world, we've been profiling what's going on there. That struggle continues. So hopefully the citizens can really rise up and raise their voices and have themselves be heard, because the government over there has been going in one direction and the citizens want something completely different.
Yes, Glenn Gunn says, and I agree, every single soul deserves to be free, and completely agree with that. And Glenn Gunn also asks, what color will Guy be wearing tonight?
Well, I don't know. It's like a brown, I guess.
Weird maroon with yellow.
Brown and maroon.
Tuna Soul Silver says, saw the title and can't help but think there is no emulsifier in existence. Can even mix Alberta and Canada. No.
Well, and I'm glad to see that Mark Carney and Danielle Smith are like water and oil, a little bit different than Pierre Poilievre's move. He's a little bit more like oil and mixing with Carney a bit. So,
DeBilver says, good evening, everyone. Hello. Thank you for being here. And Joe Rush, hello. We haven't seen you in a while. Says, hello, everyone. Missed you all. Same here. Have been busy, but not too busy to get my vote in. LOL. Cheers, and hope you're all having a fabulous day. And same to you. Thank you so much.
Well, and we do realize a lot of people just listen to the audio. Even though we're on YouTube, they just have a headphone in at work or something like that.
Like we used to.
We're trying to look in this week of putting our content on Spotify. So people that do.
Or like on podcasting platforms.
On podcasting platforms. Yeah. We're just now looking into it, though.
Yeah, I'll let you know.
It's a lot for 2 people to do, because we're here, we're on Rumble as a backup platform, as well as trying to do an X. Yeah. Our X account mainly works as a companion to the show. So if you ever want to get our sources or know what stories we're talking about, we publish them there before we go live.
Yes, and I was going to say something else. And eventually I do plan on starting to try to do shorts with the interviews we do, but that's going to come in a while, because time right now is sensitive. Sam says, until the Emergency Act is involved. No. That's not going to happen. We're going to fight it.
Well, and we did talk to John Alberta Patriot a little bit about that. And I have been theorizing, Mark Carney, if we can get past this small hurdle of the court case, which I think we definitely are, whether we have to pressure Danielle Smith or go another route. The next move from Mark Carney would be in the summertime trying to use the Emergencies Act. He has a lot more moves if he tries to stop the vote before it happens rather than after, because after it happens, if people do vote for Alberta independence, a lot of his moves are taken off the chessboard. A lot of things are automatically triggered under the law.
Mm-hmm. And should we start?
Yeah, let's start. Let's go into...
I feel like we spent a while, but don't worry, I will continue to read your messages after this first section that is Alberta Stay Free, talking all about the petition, how things are going, all that.
What's going on the ground as well, upcoming events. So this is probably the most important section, and that's why we always put it first.
Starting with, from Rising of the Alberta Army of Independence, this quote, Edmonton and regional areas have united to build Alberta's biggest Blue Mile convoy ever. The Blue Mile Storm Convoy will be meeting at 2 p.m. Sunday, April 19th. So this coming Sunday at 266th Street with 114 Avenue, Aitken. Alberta east side of Cal Tire Side Road. Route will leave Aitken, then north on Anthony Hendy to do a full loop, then arrive back at Aitken. It's kind of like, there was Alberni, I could never pronounce that one in Vancouver. We will be rolling out around 2:40 p.m. Will be a quick photo and a video of group prior to leaving. The Rising of Alberta Army of Independence is inviting all Alberta patriots from across Alberta to come be a part of history in the making. Contact Tyson for questions. We are right beside the Husky, so there will be access to fuel, food, and washroom.
Yeah, and thanks Tyson for organizing this and making this happen. We were talking to John again yesterday, and we were talking about people on the side of the road with a lot of flags, and they're calling these the Blue Mile, whether they're going with their trucks with the flags or they're standing on the side of the road. This is absolutely huge. This makes people that are kind of on the fence believe that Alberta independence is not only possible, but it's the most likely outcome. As people gain confidence, they're far more likely to support. So,
and seeing that support and seeing support behind it, and that it's not what the media is saying, that, oh, it's just a few people, or, oh, the polls say XYZ, even though we only polled 1,000 people in Calgary, or 383 people in Calgary that said they don't want independence. No, seeing people on the side of the road does inspire and does, I think, help push forward the thought that, oh, it's way more people than I thought. Maybe if I was doubting, this might push me towards saying, yes, I want to sign as well.
Well, also, when all those people are on the side of the roads with flags, or people are walking by, that's a perfect opportunity for those people to ask questions, to talk, especially everybody has a really good energetic attitude, kind of like the same attitude with the truckers convoy. And it seems like a lot of the people in Ireland have that same good energy, and that's the best way to protest.
Yes. Peacefully and with good energy to counteract what they will continue to try to do, and how to they flip the narrative, which they're trying to do now in Ireland as well.
Yeah.
And also good, Marty up north says, short day, but we still got 29 signatures between the two of us. The upward trend is noticeable. Message to all the canvassers out there, don't take your foot off the gas. There are lots of people still looking to sign, returning snowbirds, procrastinators, that would be me, and those generally pissed off at the state of the country. People are waking up to the fact that we're not voting or negotiating ourselves a better deal in Confederation. Independence is the only path forward for Alberta.
Well, and you can leave this graph up just for a minute. And thanks to Marty, because he's been tracking how many signatures he gets every day, so other canvassers can know if this is a trend. Are a lot of people signing right now? How many signatures is Marty getting, if you want to compare yourself to him, or whatever it is? But it's starting to trend up again. It looked like it went through a little bit of a lull there, and we're definitely at the upward swing. And as we come in to, I think, the 26th of this month, it's only going to increase as the weather gets better. It's shocking how many signatures we were able to get at the beginning, because that was the time it was the worst weather and the odds were kind of stacked against us.
But also, I mean, what happened this past Monday with the majority being, like, Carney getting the majority, the Liberals being in power probably forever now, I mean, that would also be a giant motivator, I think, for anybody that thought, well, maybe I still believe in the national dream and Pierre Poilievre and the Conservatives. now it would be waiting 3 years or maybe longer for that to even materialize.
Well, people are starting to sign out, and it is on the upward tick. But even with the people that aren't signing, everything that's going on in national Canada is only going to push them towards the voting booth and to tick yes for independence on October 19th. I mean, things are trending in a very good direction.
And we're also seeing positive news about reaching out to First Nations as well. Alberta Radio says, quote, tomorrow I'll be on First Nations territory, not saying where in the event the chief tries to stop me from collecting signatures from their own band members. A special thank you to members offering me the invite, which is also good to hear. And yes.
Well, and leave this up here for a second, because there has been a real effort since the First Nations elite, who see this a lot different than tribal members, have been coming out. They've been the one leading this court case, this injunction. A lot of the members agree with Alberta independence. Some of them watch our show. They comment. They say, I'm on the reserve, and 18 out of 20 of my friends have already signed the petition. Mm-hmm. So it's good to see them reaching out. Also, they've been invited onto the reserve now. And if the elites within that tribe come out and try to stop them, I'm sure that whole thing's going to be on video, and it will make for a good clip.
And we've also seen a lot of voices speaking up, First Nations voices speaking up about their desire to also become independent, but the worry of what might happen within or amongst the tribe, the band, or whatever the elites and the chiefs could do to them.
Well, and we are a grassroots movement. I mean, every part in this, there is not one solid leader. I wish it was Keith Wilson, but it's really a decentralized movement. And I've been asking on the show, hopefully First Nations people start to step up, start to voice that they are actually pro-Alberta independence. And they have reacted to that call to action, not just from me, but other content creators and other people on the ground. Mm-hmm. That's really, really good to see, because that helps counteract the narrative of all First Nations are against Alberta independence. That's not the case. The big majority of them are actually for Alberta independence.
And we also have Jeff Ruff posted this great summary saying this is why Albertans are fed up with Canada. Once again, this is from freedomcalendar.net. Go follow them, because they record all the town halls and meetings and speeches, and I think are doing a great service as well to help inform more and more people what's going on.
Well, in our Alberta Personality section, this is one of the content creators that we're going to be profiling today, and that's Freedom Calendar. But let's see what he got here.
We'll be giving up living under a government that delights in stifling our growth, caused numerous politically induced recessions, landlocked us through policy, regulates everything possible because it's the next best thing to nationalizing it, steals our money through taxation and then launders it to benefit themselves and any of their friends who come to play, believes in open borders just so anyone can walk in and the police will even carry your suitcase for you, unbelievable levels of Chinese interference in our political system, and extortion being carried out by Indian gangs here in our borders and in Alberta, by the way, all of which continues to destroy relationships with our largest trading partners, censorship laws, gun buyback program, and a Supreme Court who just ruled that invoking the Emergencies Act was indeed unconstitutional, and the response from Ottawa was, oops.
And I will say this, it can sound overwhelming when she just rattles it off. And there are 100 more reasons why Alberta independence is the direction. And that's what allows us to do a show 6 days a week. There's more than enough reasons. I can go on all the way until October 19th. And that's exactly what we're planning on doing. Mm-hmm. And once Alberta gets its independence, everything I've learned from this movement, creating content to kind of propel Alberta towards independence, hopefully we're going to be able to continue on with Saskatchewan, because they're going to need our help after. They're going to need all Albertans' help after, because Alberta is really making the framework and did the hard work of going first, which has worked to their advantage in a lot of senses.
And also continuing even after October 19th, because that is, at least in my opinion, when a lot of the more interesting things come in with the building of a nation and how that's going to work out, how that's going to look. And a lot of the questions that a lot of people might have, John was letting us know, but also Marty, when people ask like, oh, but I want to know like what currency are we going to have? What's going to happen with the Constitution? And then who gets to decide all these things? And that is the beauty of it, that it is a citizen-led initiative. And I wish, and I will continue to push for it to be a citizen-led nation that will be built from the ground up, and having that opportunity as well to even witness or speak about it or report on it is also really interesting and important.
Well, if people are kind of watching and wondering how they can get active or want to do something, there's something called the Centurion Project. That's the next step after kind of the signature gathering. And that's the stage we're starting to transition into now. So I highly recommend kind of reaching out to them.
Well, and not just with them, but just in general with the campaign that comes for the referendum itself, because the work, we're like halfway. The work work after the signature gathering is the campaigning for the referendum and informing people, letting people know what it's about, and planning and talking to each other as well, and the debates that are coming too.
Yeah, the reason I was kind of bringing that up is because it's more than just an educational initiative. They really want to have citizens get active politically again, not just in pushing Alberta independence forward, but what are the duties of the citizens, having that discussion, and really what's the duty between the citizen and the government, and what are their positions. Right now, the government's here, the citizens are here. Hopefully, we can change the balance of power and show the world how it's done with Alberta independence and the Constitution once that comes into effect.
And also why Alberta independence is so important and interesting, I think, around the world, because it does shift that paradigm between the citizens and their governments, which is, I think, also why they're so scared of it.
Well, I think a lot of Western governments right now have to be fearing Alberta independence because it completely changes the paradigm between the citizen and the government. And a lot of countries in the EU, if Alberta independence or when Alberta independence is successful, may be questioning why are they part of the EU? The EU just takes more and more of their sovereignty while they try to lock them in a debt trap.
However, there might be still some interesting reasons to stay, for Alberta to stay within Canada. Let's see, Keith Wilson lists them all. Province of Alberta says, quote, Keith Wilson lists all the great reasons Alberta should stay in Canada. There aren't any.
Yeah, and I've been really happy with Rebel News because they have Sheila Gunn Reid, because they have Tamara, because they have been interviewing Keith Wilson and Jeff Rath a lot. A lot of national news agencies or independent media voices have been completely silent on Alberta independence because most of their audience are national conservatives and they don't want to fracture their audience. So thanks to Rebel News for keeping up the reporting on Alberta independence.
Well, it was announced yesterday. It's going to be on May 11th in Calgary, and it's a town hall meeting about all of the reasons why we should stay in Canada. What I'm thinking is the town hall is going to start by introductions, and let's assume the introductions will last grand total of, let's say, 7 minutes. So I think people shouldn't even take their coats off because they're going to be in there and out of there in 7 minutes. Because after they do the introductions, what are they going to say for why we should stay in Canada? I mean, let's stay in Canada so Albertans can continue to send, $25 to $40 billion to Quebec and other provinces that don't work as hard as we do. Stay in Canada so that as the province with the third largest reserve of oil in the world, 3 times the per capita oil per person in Alberta compared to Saudi Arabia and other countries that have zero income taxes, continue to have our oil and gas forced to stay in the ground by net zero climate cartel policies from Ottawa. Let's stay in Canada so that we continue to have taxation without representation because of the improper structural imbalance with the allocation of votes in the House of Commons. Continue to stay in Canada because none of our people can almost ever get appointed to federal institutions of importance like the Supreme Court of Canada and many others because you have to be bilingual to cater to Quebec. I could just keep going. Stay in Canada so that they can go on this reckless spending spree of creating more debt than all of the previous governments combined, that we're paying for, our kids are paying for, our grandkids are paying for, and our great-grandkids are paying for. Stay in Canada so they can keep running recklessly with that. I could keep going. It's fascinating to me. I'm encouraged that they're doing this because
Pause it for a
each
sec.
time
And it's good. Oh, actually, we'll let it finish. I didn't realize he was almost done.
someone tries to come forward with a good argument as to why I should change my mind, even when I hear them deliver it, you sense they go, oh, that's actually not a really good argument.
And it's fantastic to see Keith Wilson. He's really starting to loosen up. He's getting happy. I think the momentum of Alberta independence, because he was really very, very serious, but he's the exact figure we need. That being said, I like to see him smiling and laughing there. But this event is going to be crucially important because this is the real event, the real first event nationalists are going to have. I hope there's a lot of cameras in the room because we're going to be able to clip all this stuff. They're not going to be able to say their lies with confidence. When they do say their lies, it's going to be straw mans of what Alberta independence is. They're going to be trying to lean on a fake history that Canada has abandoned well over a decade ago. They've been trying to erase Canadian history by pulling down statues, by changing the national anthem, you name it. Canada is embarrassed of its history and is trying to change its own demographics en masse.
Exactly. And it's interesting that, at least for now, the arguments to stay in Canada, or that the nationalists continue to try to use, like Jason Kenney, is either economics, and we can solve it all through economics. We can give you a pipeline and you'll shut up, and that's all the only issues that you have. the representation continues to be the same. Everything else, the culture, everything else would continue to be the same if Alberta stays in Canada. But then the whole fake patriotism that, oh, but we have a history together. And it's like, yeah, but if you have a history together with an abusive spouse, then it doesn't matter if you have the history. You have the now evidence of you being mistreated. And I've spoken too much Spanish today, of you being mistreated. So, I mean, leaving still continues to be the best choice.
Well, it's also going to be very interesting to see who are the speakers at this event, who's funding this event, where is it being where is it taking place? Are they renting a hall? Because halls cost a lot. A lot of people from Alberta Independence had said a lot of the times when they were trying to throw events, it was like $10,000 to rent a hall, and that took a big chunk of change they could have spent on other things. So looking into the finances of this event and who's speaking there, I'm going to be very, very interested. I'm sure we're going to have a ton of clips from this thing.
Yes, and also about the...
Well, and I do encourage people from the Alberta independence movement to attend this pro-Canada or pro-nationalist event so we can know what's going on there.
And attend in a polite manner, have debates, discussions maybe, but always showing that you literally are the bigger people.
Absolutely.
And the whole movement is the respectful side, not the one that says traitor and we hate you and oh, you're horrible and calls names, because that's what we've also seen from that side, even to canvassers on the road getting either their sheets stolen or being yelled at or being shown the finger, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, and I think fear is going to be the main component of what nationalists are going to try to use. They've already tried to use the component to lean on the history of Canada, that Alberta needs some loyalty. That's not the case. Canada turned its back on Alberta long before Alberta's turned its back on Canada.
I would even say Canada has turned its back in all of its actual citizens. However, a lot of those citizens, because they continue to be lemmings, don't want to realize it and live in this cognitive dissonance and this bubble where they still continue to think it's the way it used to be.
Yeah, absolutely.
It hasn't been in a long time. But Keith Wilson also says, Angela Tabak says, quote, independence, individually and as a province, is a key part of Alberta, of the Alberta experience. Alberta wants freedom for builders, job creators, and entrepreneurs. Ottawa offers rules, roadblocks, and control.
Well, 1 second before we stop this, zoom out for a second. And when he says independence is a key part of the Alberta experience, this idea of independence and the energy of independence is crucial to kind of nurture and plant those seeds, because that's going to carry over to Saskatchewan as well after things do wrap up on the 19th in Alberta when we get our independence.
Albertans, when we get up in the morning, we look at what we've got to get done in the day, ambitious, and we say, boy, I sure hope the government doesn't get in my way today. Whereas I find people I meet from other parts of Canada, they're always like, well, I vote for this party because it gives me the most. It does the most for me. We don't want that. We want to set free our entrepreneurs, our job creators. We've got the resources here. We're being constrained by ideological policies in Ottawa that they are not letting go of, even at this time of the global energy crisis and supply crunch. And increasing number of Albertans realize that the proper, logical, safe, sane path forward is independence. And I think we're going to get a clear majority of voting for independence on October 19th. Albertans, when we get...
Well, and I think what he's really trying to say is hopefully Alberta, when it gets its independence, makes its constitution, it goes a different route than almost every other government in the world has gone. Let's build strong citizens, critically thinking citizens that are politically engaged and part of a community that want to interact with each other, that want to pull up the bootstraps to make the nation better for the next generation, for their kids and their grandkids and so on.
And build actual, useful, real communities that do focus on that independence that can help each other rise as well together.
Well, we see Canada doing the exact opposite. They're really trying to import an entire new voting bloc because they know citizens that have been here for generations just aren't going to vote for these policies, or if they're well informed, they're definitely not going to vote for those policies. That's why they have to have a rigged political system where Ottawa and Quebec have an outweighted size of power when it comes to voting.
Oh, and stop.
Oh, okay.
Thank you so much to Rage Against the Machine saying stand firm, stand proud. Oh, sorry. Thank you so much for the $10 super chat. And Rage Against the Machine says stand firm, stand proud, stand together, and the future will remember with that when freedom called, we answered with fear, not with fear, but with unbreakable hope. Alberta rise.
Absolutely. Fantastic statement. Let me like that real quick. Yeah. And that's the thing we have that the nationalists don't have.
Exactly.
We have we want hope, we want change, we have a vision for the future that involves not just ourselves, but generations of us to follow.
And that there is still that worry and that wanting to also help the future generations, which I think Canada has completely forgotten about.
Absolutely.
And
to build a self-sufficiency with your natural resources and then manufacturing and so on and so forth, so we can get the minerals directly out of the ground right to the finished product. That's something I would love to see from Alberta. You have all the resources to do that, including the energy, the mining, you name it. Alberta has it.
And thank you so much. Once again, Rage Against Machine. Emilia says, hi from Edmonton. Hello. Edward says, yo. Hello, Edward. Thank you for being here. And Glenn Gunn says, no.
Oh, 1 second. We are at the end of the section. So
Yes,
we're going to read comments before we go into Alberta politics.
Yes, sorry about that. DeBilver says, that's my favorite apple fritter.
And I like, sometimes I can like apple fritters, but most places don't know how to make them right. This place, Randy's Donuts, just knows how to make them. They're absolutely huge, though. That being said, there is another place. If you're in Vancouver, British Columbia, there's a little place called Deep Cove, and there's a place, an independent little place.
Well, those aren't apple fritters or donuts.
No, there's a little independent donut shop called Honey's Donuts. They taste like cake, but they're dipped in honey, soaked all the way through. I've never had a donut like it.
No.
It's absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah,
phenomenal. You don't want to go to Honey's Donuts in the summertime because the lineup's literally an hour, but in the wintertime, nobody's there.
Yeah.
And that little town of Deep Cove is absolutely beautiful.
Yes. Escape from China says, hi from Puerto Vallarta. Hello. Or
Oh,
hola.
good to see you.
Hope you're getting some warmth over there. It was hot here today, or at least when we went down. I think we're both coughing because we went to where it's really polluted. So like downtown Mexico City, we live pretty far away where there's more air up in the mountains.
Yeah.
Hold on. Glenn Gunn says, okay, I'm
Well,
jealous.
in 1 second, thank you if you are watching from outside of Canada or even outside Alberta. I'm making a real effort to reach out to do interviews and to talk to people within the United States, within national Canada and internationally to bring more awareness to what's going on in Alberta. The national government is really tried to shut down the conversation and not have the conversation so far. And when I'm reaching out to American content creators, they just don't know about it. So it's really hard to get interviews with people outside of Alberta. We used to talk a lot of geopolitics, so we do have a lot of Americans that also watch. So thank you if you are supporting Alberta independence from outside the country as well.
Yes. Daisy Duke asks, if Alberta achieves independence, will you move back to Alberta?
Well, we're pretty set up. It cost a lot of money and a lot of time for us to relocate to Mexico. I'm talking about maybe going up there for a few weeks to change my address from my British Columbia address to Alberta. So,
but I mean, and also, again, I am from Mexico. I'm from Mexico City. So my roots are here at least. But we have talked about it. We thought like maybe once kids are a bit grown up or more grown up, being able to either go back and forth or not just stay within Mexico forever, but at least for now, for a little bit, it is kind of where our ground zero is.
Yeah, if I ever do.
But I mean, I would want to.
If I ever do move out of Mexico City, there's nowhere else I would move except for Alberta once it gets its independence.
Exactly. Especially because, I mean, one day we'd like to have a homestead and chickens and stuff. And that, while you can do it here, it's a bit more complicated unless you go to outside of the cities and to the more rural areas. But then
we have a super chat there.
It can be kind of dangerous as well. Which hopefully in Alberta won't be. Phillips Oil, oh, hello, thank you so much, says Louisiana here. Great program. Curious, any idea on number of signatures collected? Is 1 million possible? Thank you so much for the $5 super chat, and thank you for being here from Louisiana.
Yeah, absolutely. I did some work in Louisiana after the hurricane went through there. We rebuilt the power lines and stuff like that. So that was interesting because I had never done work like that, and they were desperate for workers. That being said, we're estimating the signatures are around, I think, 350 when we talked to Marty. That was kind of the estimate now. We're well over what we needed to trigger the referendum, and that is the important point. I'm hoping we can get over 405,000 in the end because that's more than the other petition that kind of went before Alberta independence. So that's what I was going to say about that.
But thank you so much, and thank you for watching from Louisiana. I'm trying to get through the comments that aren't showing up anymore because there's a lot. So thank you so much.
Okay, just so everybody knows, where the show is getting a lot bigger right now. We used to read every single comment. We're gonna keep trying to read most comments after each section, but we're definitely gonna start missing some of them because the whole show would be reading comments at that point. We'll read 3 more.
I like reading them because I like to know what y'all think. Kanak says, I've been watching you guys for a while now. I notice you don't just talk about Canada or USA. You both talk about the global news and are not sugarcoating it. So thank you from me and my family. Thank you for watching and for having watched us from our geopolitics days as well, it seems. So thank you so much. And yeah, we used to do a geopolitics show covering, mainly the US because it does impact everything else. But the world in general, we used to have the same sections we have here, but for each country, each kind of area or country.
Well, and things are really interconnected. I see when things happen in the Middle East or with the Strait of Hormuz, which we'll sometimes talk about in our Rumble section or in our Alberta and the World section, it has a huge effect on Alberta because of the oil industry and a lot of other things like the negotiations with the United States and stuff like that. So it really has helped doing that geopolitical show for a couple of years before we went really hard into one subject like Alberta independence. If people don't know, we actually started this channel with the truckers protest. We were at the border in British Columbia when they were shutting down the border. We just felt like we had to do something. I look back at some of our own videos. It's extremely cringe. We've come a long way. We still got a long way to go, but I'm really glad an issue like this came up because it is so close to my heart and it's something I'm willing to commit 6 days a week to see this thing through.
And because we don't want to even hide those videos, you can find them all in a playlist if you want to cringe with us, called All Our Old Videos, because our original channel is now my Spanish channel, funnily enough. So they're all there. If you look for them in this channel, they're not here, but you can go find them on the playlist as well.
Okay.
Someone did ask me once
2 more questions and then we're going to go into Alberta politics here.
Troglodyte, hello. I just want to say hello to Troglodyte. Says, hello, all you smart, freedom-loving people. Hello. And Jim Roy says, Carney and Ebby gave more land to the Comox Reserve with mineral rights that will help our GDP.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that. And the One BC party is not happy about it. They're the only party that stood up, and it's a damn shame what's happening in British Columbia. But also, let's just realize this may be a distraction what's happening in British Columbia because Mark Carney has a national...
Let's get ready to rumble!
What happened?
I've clicked the button again that switches to Rumble. Sorry. I was trying to go to you. Continue. Sorry, we're back. We didn't go anywhere.
Okay, go to the last comment there.
Sorry, that was me. It's the second time I do that. I'm so sorry. Oh, Canuck says my Alberta flag was stolen off my...
yeah, everybody left.
Sorry. Canuck says my Alberta flag was stolen off the deck the other night over here in Ontario.
Oh my God.
And
go
again,
figure. And like, it's even...
Not surprised, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's going to continue to happen as the thing ramps up because they're going to have more and more rhetoric talking about how Albertans are traitors. So I could see them trying to attack the flag. That now is the symbol of freedom and independence for all Canada. Why? Because the federal government has made a majority government through floor crossers and underhanded means. So the Alberta flag is going to become really the symbol for freedom across Canada. At least that's what I'm hoping. And that's why I'm trying to reach out to national content creators to kind of amplify the voice of what's happening in Alberta.
Yes. That's unfortunate and sorry about that.
That's okay.
We're still here. I wrote a message like, we're still here, don't leave. That was my fault. Let's move on to Alberta politics, which is what I was going to try to do before I messed it up.
He doesn't discuss federal politics. He only concerns himself with Alberta's independence.
I was trying to explain what happened. Okay, starting with Keith Wilson saying Alberta has the world's 3rd largest reserves of oil and natural gas. Josh Young says, quote, Permian well productivity is in decline, according to JP Morgan. JP Morgan says JPM US shale well productivity tracker. And let me read the highlighted bit. It says one of the key takeaways is that 2025 well productivity data continues to show declines in productivity across Permian, with 6-month oil cubes down by 8% in the Delaware Basin and 4% in the Midland Basin, confirming the trend in our prior sets of analysis. In natural gas basins, the Haynesville is showing sizable increases, but apparently.
Yeah,
some are
and one
going
of the
down.
big problems here is the carbon tax and other kind of regulations Mark Carney is putting on oil and natural gas across national Canada. We're going to talk about it a little bit tomorrow, but a lot of American companies are outright saying now they're not going to invest in Canadian oil and natural gas, even though they're absolutely desperate for more oil and natural gas because the world is desperate for it. But with a carbon tax and regulation that adds an extra $20 per barrel on top of an already high cost because it's coming from the oil sands, it's just not worth them for doing business. This is why Alberta needs its independence so they can take off the regulations and sell at market price. Okay, let's go. We got JP Alberta, and he's always fantastic to the
much.
show. Let me like him there.
JP Alberta first, thank you so much for the $10 super chat. Says, some math as speculation and hope, 1.5 million signatures with 7,000 canvassers is about 215 signatures each day or per day. Then 215 signatures over 90 days would be 2.4 signatures per canvasser per day. I'm bad at math. But if anybody else understands that analysis, thank you so much, JP.
Yeah.
Alberta first.
And yeah, thanks to everybody that has been giving us updates on what's going on with the signatures, not just JP Alberta, but Marty as well.
Yes.
And he's been posting those online.
And also Jason GP also giving us a lot and going out into, as he calls it, the bush to get signatures as well over there, or at least talk to the guys that are still working over there and doing that great job as well.
Yeah, and what is the date today?
The 15th.
The 15th. So people are just starting to come home today after a lot of camp jobs. So there should be another push for signatures. They're going to be pissed off about what Mark Carney has done to national Canada, and they don't want Alberta to go in that direction. I would say that is going to be a big voting block for us, is everybody that works at these camp jobs. And I hope they do take the day off work or protest to not work or get a mail-in vote when this vote comes, because I'm hoping Mark Carney doesn't collude with big business to give out a lot of camp contracts to make sure people can't vote.
Yeah. But let's see, speaking of Mark Carney, let's see this from No Apology. Jay says, quote, take a pause on this post just for a moment because it tells us something very important. The question, what was the exact percentage of people in Canada who voted for the Liberal Party? The answer in the most recent Canadian...
and pause here. This is very, very interesting. This is one of the most interesting analysis that I have seen, especially because they're always trying to talk down about the voting bloc of Alberta independence, and it is much stronger than people want to admit.
The answer, what was the percentage of people in Canada who voted for the Liberal Party? The answer, quote, in the most recent Canadian federal election held on April 28th, 2025, the Liberal Party received 43.76% of the popular vote, or 8 million.
Yeah, 8.5 million.
I'm bad at reading numbers. Why does this matter? When I search support for Alberta independence, I'm seeing numbers in the 42%, if not higher range. And obviously, when it comes to a winning vote, majority rules. The Liberals formed government with 43.76% of the vote. With yesterday's theft of power, they now hold the majority government, which has significantly driven demand for people to have their names added to Alberta's independence petition. That estimated 42% in support of independence has surged since yesterday. Let's make Alberta independence way too big to rig. If you haven't signed yet, get your name on the petition. And also, you can always find the Stay Free Alberta website. It's linked down below to find where the locations are, or ask for a canvasser to come to you so you can sign. If you're a business in the greater Calgary area and you and your team want to get your names on the petition, send him a message and they'll come to you. And again,
yeah, and thanks for the great analysis here. And I don't know why I didn't put two and two together, but the Liberal Party has a 43% voting bloc for all of Canada, and they've secured a majority government. So now they get to dictate to the nation what they're going to do. Alberta independence basically has that same percentage that want independence. It's going to be, hopefully, a landslide. There's a narrative coming out from the national media now, and I pay very, very close attention to these nationalist talking points. And they say if Alberta independence has anything less than 60%, that's not a mandate, and they won't be able to separate. That's not the fact. 51% or even 50% plus one vote is a mandate, and that is a majority. And the majority will take Alberta to declaring independence if the Canadian federal government doesn't go into good faith negotiations. And we really need to hit back when the nationalists start saying we need 60%. Now, I think we can get 60%, but 60% isn't needed for Alberta to gain its independence.
Mm-hmm. And let's see this from Concerned Canadian, just because it's funny, saying I still can't fathom how over 40% of Canadians voted for this.
She looks like a man with Tourette's.
Yep, that's your future, Canada. Right there.
That's Mark Carney's wife, by the way.
Wife. I will say. Rise of Alberta also.
Be careful. We're going to get arrested for hate speech talking about Carney's wife.
Carney and Shayman can come stand by my door. Rise of Alberta says, quote, Albertans will never vote in a Canadian federal election again. By the time the next one is held in 2029, Alberta will be an independent nation.
Yeah, and I leave this here. I thought this was an absolutely fantastic post because a lot of people don't vote in federal elections or have never voted in their life. A lot of young people haven't. I know a lot of people when I used to work in mining or in oil, a lot of those individuals just don't have time to vote, or they're just like, go along to get along. I'm going to do my job. It doesn't matter who I vote for. This is one time where it does matter. This is the biggest vote, I would say, in world history, at least in modern world history. We are voting to become and to hit the reset button and to start everything over again, to change the paradigm between citizens and its government. You'll never have to vote in an election where your vote won't matter again, because that's exactly what happened with the most recent Canadian election. Your vote just doesn't matter. You vote in Alberta independence, you're voting for a change, and your vote does matter.
Exactly. And it would be interesting that the last election for anybody that did vote in the last one will be the last one you ever had to deal with.
And that you just reminded me. And when I seen this post this morning, there should be a campaign saying your vote didn't matter in the last election. If you're from Western Canada, make it count now for Alberta independence. Like, we need to really campaign. This vote for independence is unlike any election that's ever happened before in Canada.
Exactly. Sorry, I couldn't find the button again. I'm off today. I'm sorry.
Don't hit the other button again. We're not in the show yet.
Western Standard says, infamous political strategy plots Alberta Liberal Party takeover to oppose the UCP referendum questions. Because they're running out of ideas, I will say.
Oh, and you can click into the article really quick.
Okay.
And then just read the headline and the little thing underneath of it.
I need to do it this way because I need to X out of all the ads and stuff and make sure it loads. It's not loading. Come on, Western Standard. They won't let me go in.
Okay, you can just bring it back up. Oh, yeah, you're right there.
I know, but it won't let me read it.
Oh, won't let you no, you don't have to read it. I want you to read the little heading underneath.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it always lets you read just a little bit of it.
Okay. So it says, infamous political strategist plots Alberta Liberal Party takeover to oppose UCP referendum questions. And then says, political strategist Stephen Carter on the left, Zane Valji, and former Alberta NDP Minister of Environment and Parks, Shannon Phillips, on the April 13th episode of The Strategist. So that's where they were talking about it.
Well, yeah, and now we see this movement really starting to come up. They're talking about how to make a counter movement with what Keith Wilson was talking about, the little rally or get together they're going to have to say why National Canada is the right move. And now we're seeing a lot of articles like this come out. They're trying to plot a strategy, and there's not a firm strategy there because it's not obvious. We've already seen Kinney try and fail. We're going to see him 2 more times try to debate Keith Wilson, and I'm not expecting anything better because I've seen him talk a few times since the last debate with Bruce Party, and he realized a lot of those talking points didn't work. They didn't land, and he doesn't want to use them. And
he went over to the whole, we have a shared history. We are proud to be Canadian. They just can't leave like that, etc. Which I think works even worse than the economic arguments.
Well, as this national strategy starts to form, they're going to realize they're hollow. They have nothing there. What's going to end up happening, at least in my opinion, because Kinney is even pushing more people towards Alberta independence. The NDP is definitely pushing more people. Carney is as well. I figure they're going to have to tap Pierre Poilievre on the shoulder and say, you're going to have to put Canada first and shut down this Alberta independence movement. And that is the only thing they could really do to throw a wild card in there, or to even have a hope to build any kind of counter narrative to Alberta independence. And even then it's going to be extremely weak, and that's going to be the end of Poilievre's career. And I think that would lead way to Danielle Smith potentially taking control of the National Conservative Party.
Or she could go the other way and stay within Alberta.
Either way, but she has had the best narrative that she's kind of spun, which is, I'm not here to side with Alberta independence. I'm here to let democracy go first. And there are a lot of upset people in Alberta. So we're going to let them vote and see what they have to say.
Yes.
And that was the opposite of what Polyev did.
Rebel News also, and we've talked about this before, the Independence Blueprint, what Alberta can learn from Quebec. This is Sheila Gunn Reid's book, but I don't know why you brought it up.
Yeah, I brought this up because I've been researching a lot more into Quebec, and surprisingly, that independence movement is a lot stronger than I thought. I kind of disregarded them as a welfare state of Alberta with all these remittance payments. And although that is a fact, that's about 7% of their economy. Since 1995, when their last referendum took place, they've really internalized their economy, and they're kind of trying to set themselves up for another run at independence here. Now, in the past, I said I'm not going to be a big supporter of Quebec independence. I would support it, but I just don't think they can be successful because they've created a welfare state, because their citizens don't have that pull themselves up by the bootstrap kind of mentality that Alberta and Saskatchewan have. The more that I'm looking into it, I'm thinking even Quebec may have a chance. I really wish they would have done their independence movement at the same time as Alberta, because that would have showed the hypocrisy of the federal government and how they deal with the two movements differently. They're willing to give Quebec anything they want to stay in Canada, while they treat Alberta like the doormat of Canada, and they've been doing that for the past 100 years.
Well, and the thing with Quebec as well, at least in the way I see it, is that they have used independence as that crux to get more and more and to get both more representation, but also more help from the federal government, and used it as almost as a threat, but never actually making it actionable since 1995, but keeping that at the forefront. Alberta, on the other hand, I don't think the thought is even really there to use it as a threat to be able to get more things from the federal government. This is a real independence movement that does want to lead.
Well, the more I dig into the economics and stuff, it's crazy how Ottawa treats Quebec, their mine industry, their natural resource industry. It's like, do what you want. You can have the permits. We're going to take down the regulations and the barriers and take them out of your way. When it comes to Alberta, it's like, we're going to tie so many strings to your oil industry, to your mining industry. It's not even going to be cost effective for you to start these projects. And private investment is going to not want to really invest in Alberta. And it's a shame they've had this dual treatment of these two different provinces. And that's one of the big complaints of Alberta. But there is a lot to learn from Quebec and what they've experienced in the past, and kind of what they're doing right now, going towards their own independence movement.
And now I'll continue to read some comments before we move on to the next section, which is Alberta Personalities. Some of them might not show up on the screen because they're going so fast that I can't see them to bring them up on the screen, but there are some good ones, so I do want to read them. Jim Roy, hello, says, I spoke with many people that won't sign until October. Independence will happen. And there's also that. There's also those that either don't have time, can't go, are procrastinators, etc., that don't sign the petition, but that would and will probably go and vote during the referendum.
Well, some people may be scared to sign a petition, even though they shouldn't be scared. When it comes time for a referendum in the privacy of a voter booth, they're most likely going to tick yes. And I think there's going to be a huge percentage of people that vote for Alberta independence, much more than the federal government's expecting here.
Hopefully. Justin GP says, I'm a Métis canvasser and I sign up First Nations all the time. Thank you, Jess.
That's fantastic to hear. And when canvassers are signing up First Nations, just put it in the chat so we know. It's good to get that information out there, because the national government is trying to build that narrative of First Nations. First Nations have been colonized. We're trying to take their land again. Whatever it is they're going to try to build, it's going to be built around First Nations. That's obvious at this point. But the truth of the matter is, the members of these First Nations tribes have been getting the short end of the stick for years from their own elites in their own tribes.
James B says, hello, thousands are moving to Alberta because we will separate. Exactly.
Well, and I've been talking about this almost every show, and I've named it the Great Migration. People from every single province are moving to Alberta, from British Columbia, Saskatchewan, even Ottawa. Why? Because they were already going to leave to the United States, but now they see Alberta independence and they are saying to themselves, I'm going to move to Alberta. I'm going to vote for independence. If it doesn't go our way, I can use the United States as that safety net.
Thank you so much to JP Alberta First for the $5 super chat.
Thank you.
You're great. Says, difference between Alberta and Canada. Alberta as seen on TV. Canada not as advertised.
Exactly.
And especially nowadays. And even the people that are coming in either as temporary foreign workers or students are realizing it almost as soon as they get there. The actual cost of living crisis that there is, the housing crisis, the security issues and the safety issues, just trying to walk down the street, the state of the big cities that they arrive at, both in the east and the west, all over the place, and they're leaving faster than most people used to before. So even the people that thought that they were going to go there to build a life are saying, oh no, I'm going to leave earlier.
Yeah.
So,
well, and now the Canadian government doesn't know what to do because their idea was this great replacement theory, where they were bringing in massive amounts of migrants and bring up Canada's population to 100 million by 2050. And immigrants aren't sticking around. They're leaving the country as fast as they're coming in. Mm-hmm. So now they want to put an exit fee that these migrants won't be able to afford. So they'll be stuck within Canada.
And Canadians too.
Within this debt trap.
Yeah. DeBilver says, James, I'm moving there from Ontario at the end of June.
Well, and thank you for saying that in the chat. And if anybody is planning to move to Alberta, let us know, because I've been talking about this great migration. It's been a project of mine to talk about and to appeal to people that are already going to move to Mexico or the United States to say, no, wait a minute. Alberta has a real hope for national conservative Canadians that are freedom-minded. You can move to Alberta first and always use Mexico or the United States as a safety net.
Well, the ones that have read the tea leaves and are seeing what's happening also in other provinces. Again, if you're thinking of moving elsewhere, maybe think of moving to Alberta first, and then for some reason it doesn't work out, then go somewhere else.
And you have it's a double positive if you move to Alberta. If Alberta gets its independence, number one, it's going to be one of the strongest economies in the Western world. But number two, you get to stick it to the Canadian government like nobody ever thought we were going to be able to stick it to them, because they've been sticking it to the people for well over a decade now.
Reckon Around says, at some point when the educational sessions start, more people will wake up and realize independence is the only way out. And I do think that is why this next stage of campaigning will be that very important before the referendum and can make a lot of impact, even for people that maybe didn't have time to sign or were too afraid or weren't really sure. That is also when there's so many more people that you can reach by educating and by explaining why it is the only chance there is before the insane asylum becomes even more crazy. I can't talk. Glenn Gunn says we need to reach out one person at a time, thoughtfully and truthfully.
Well, and this needs to happen now with Alberta independence before this great replacement theory can happen out in Alberta. You've already started to be flooded with massive amounts of migration and immigration from outside of Canada that don't have that same mentality of people that have lived in Canada for generations. If this Alberta independence movement wouldn't happen now and it happened in a few years, I don't know if we would have the votes, but right now we definitely are not at a tipping point. I think the odds are in our favor for Alberta independence. And because Alberta was the first to move, they have a huge advantage over the federal government. Saskatchewan and Scott Moe, I don't know what's going on there, but Scott Moe is leaning further and further into Carney.
Jason GP says, not collecting signatures in the bush today. We got 6 inches of snow. It's messy out there. Please stay safe as well. And I do keep seeing that it's apparently snowing in various parts of Alberta. So please stay warm and stay safe.
Well, and I keep hoping it's going to warm up for that last 15 days of signatures.
Exactly. Hold on. Now everybody's talking about the weather.
Let's read 3 more comments and then we're going to go to the next section, which is going to be Alberta Personalities. That's a short one, so we'll go back to...
Sam says, but Sheila Gunn Reid's book, The Case for Confederation, Alberta's compelling reasons to stick around. It's 50 blank pages. Too funny. And too true as well. Funnily enough. Rage Against Machine says, let hope be our banner and love of Alberta our steady drum. Let our voices join like a river that cannot be turned back. For every storm that gathers, there is people who stand.
Absolutely.
You're very poetic. Rage Against Machine. Thank you so much.
And that sentiment really exists.
Oh, hold on, and it continues. For every shadow that falls, there is light carried forward by faithful hands. We are the light.
Yeah, and that sentiment really does carry true in Alberta and Saskatchewan. And this is why I'm really, really pushing for Alberta and Saskatchewan independence so hard. And I hope once Alberta does get its independence, the citizens of Alberta will realize Saskatchewan does need our help. And since we've gone first, we have the ability to help them. Not necessarily be part of the same nation, but to get their own independence and stand on their own 2 feet.
And then Rage, in another poetic thing, said, let's effing go, Alberta.
Okay, let's get into Alberta personalities if we can.
Yeah, the comments are going so fast, I can't even bring them up on the screen.
Yeah,
so
and
thank you so much to everybody for participating.
This is one of the few times we haven't been able to get to all the comments, and that's a good thing because the show, you're really helping the show grow.
Yes.
But we really do try to get to all the comments we can.
And I am really interested in the comments, so sometimes after the show, I go in and read the ones that I wasn't able to read out loud because I really want to know what people are thinking. That's what lives are all about, at least in my opinion.
Yeah.
It's to interact with all of you as well. But let's go to Alberta personalities, speaking of interacting.
But they need to understand that Albertans are done, we're leaving, and there's no more conversation to be had. I know that's upsetting to people.
And here's where we highlight
And there was one comment I did see, and it said, sorry, I rarely look at the comments because I let you read them, but it says, oh, it's moving so fast.
I know.
And we will 1,000,000% help Saskatchewan out, and that's good to hear.
Yes.
And we should keep echoing that sentiment so we can roll right in to Saskatchewan independence after Alberta, because
especially with the momentum
it's
that is
really
being built.
it would be a 1-2 punch against the federal government, because they're going to be distracted by negotiating with Alberta and their independence as Saskatchewan starts to move forward.
But the first one we want to, and we always use this content creator, I will say, on X, and they're a great source for both commentary but information as well.
Well, let me say something really quick. Okay. Usually I profile content creators that are video content creators from YouTube or stuff, but I wanted to start profiling people on X or accounts on X, because that's where we get a lot of our news. That's what helps us do our show. And it's an easy, quick way to stay informed. So both of the creators we're profiling today, I highly recommend going to subscribe to, because they're a fantastic source for us on this show, but they are a fantastic resource for everything in Alberta independence.
Yes, so the first one, and you've seen it here a million times, is Rise of Alberta, with saying, quote, 120,000 people left Canada in 2025, many of them mid-career, high-earning professionals. The people who build, create, and drive growth are leaving. Alberta independence means building a nation that skilled, productive people want to move to, not flee, and want to stay in. More importantly, I would say, not flee.
And this is just typical of his content, and I just wanted to bring something up. Go back to the top so everybody can see the Rise of Alberta. Yeah, this is typical of his content. It's absolutely fantastic. We use him almost every day on the show, I think, as a resource.
Or her.
Yeah.
Still not sure, but yeah, thank you so much to Rise of Alberta as well for everything that they've been doing for posting so frequently as well, and posting so much valuable information that also starts conversations, because it's kind of what it happens sometimes with us with the posts that Rise of Alberta puts up, is that it can start the conversation into what's going on in Alberta independence and ideas and etc. So
yeah, and I've been wanting to profile Rise of Alberta and say thank you to them for a long time, because we have been using them as a resource, but I tend to use video creators because there's a personality behind it, and it's easier to drive people over to them to subscribe. But hopefully Rise to Alberta starts to grow even a little bit bigger.
Yes. And another one is someone that has been here on the chat before, and we thank him so much for that, is Freedom Calendar, who has been doing an amazing job at recording every town hall, speech, speaker, etc. that has to do with Alberta independence. So it is freedomcalendar.net or fcalendar.net on X or on the website or on YouTube as well. Says I will live stream on Wednesday, April 15th at 7 p.m. So after our show, from Delbourne, the Alberta Independence Town Hall with Chris Scott, Zane Novak, and Ben Crane. Looks like the Communist Broadcasting Corporation and many podcasters will be there. John Bolton is going to be there as well. So if you're interested in that, go watch it after our show.
And just show the post really quick, and then go back up to the Freedom Calendar name so people know.
Yes, so there it is, starting 7 p.m. today.
We'll go up to the top.
Okay. There you go.
Yeah, so it is Freedom Calendar. Freedom Calendar is one of those people that are doing really a lot of the nuts and bolts on the ground behind the scenes, really pushing Alberta independence forward, making sure these town halls, these rallies, they can get out to the people with a live video feed or a recorded video feed along with good audio. And he does great posts as well.
And I will say the democracy that the Liberals and anybody on the left is always talking about, that they care so much about, is built, and it can only exist and subsist with the informed citizenry and with people actually knowing the true information that is out there and discussing and debating amongst themselves. We've seen this push to censor and quieten down any voice or call anything hate speech that they don't want to be out there or anything that goes against them. And with Alberta independence, this push of information and this also gathering of information, showing of information, debates, discussions, talks, Keith Wilson, Jeff Rath, everybody else that has been speaking up and continues to speak up are very important. And for people to be able to see them and what Freedom Calendar is doing, I think is also incredibly and almost invaluable at this point, especially for people that are either outside or that can't attend themselves.
Well, especially the amount he's doing it.
Yes.
It's a full-time, it must be a full-time commitment from him. So we really do appreciate all the work Freedom Calendar has been doing.
Yes, so go follow him as well.
And I'll say the next section is going to be national Canadian politics as it's related to Alberta. But before we get into that, let's read a few more comments. Well, we're not going to be able to read them all today.
I'm going to try. I'm going to go quickly. Hold on. Where are we? Steve Surfaro, hello. Thank you for being here. Says, there's only one consideration here. The people of Alberta. The second most important issue is the road to be free.
Absolutely. And Steve has been a long-time follower of the channel. He's from the United States. There is a lot of support in the United States for Alberta independence, but we need to really raise the awareness a lot more in case censorship comes to Canada. We're going to have to rely on our brothers and sisters in the United States to kind of potentially even be our voice, depending how far Mark Carney wants to take this censorship.
And Charlie Default, hello, says, hit the like and subscribe button if you like this. Thank you so much. And it really does help out and helps it spread out even further.
Well, and maybe I can say something. Thank you to everybody that's been watching our live streams. We're getting almost 2,000 views every live stream after the next day and things like that. But we only have 2,300 subscribers. So there must be a lot of people that aren't subscribed. If you can hit the subscribe button, that's the main thing that's helping out our reach right now.
Yes, so thank you so much. Raging Against the Machine also says, thank you guys for your efforts. Spreading the word is critical. Cheers. Thank you so much. And hold on.
We'll do 3 more comments and then we're going to go into the next section here. And at the end, we'll read a lot of comments because we're a little bit ahead of schedule right now, which is good.
And hold on. David Bird does say independence needs at least 55 to 60% or it could get ugly and drag on.
Well, and that's the narrative they're trying to build now. And they don't want to say 55%. They're trying to say we need 60%. And well, whatever they want to say, we need 51%. And that's all we need. That being said, I think we have a 60% vote in our hands right now.
And Harmony, hello, thank you for being here once again, says, we have another snowstorm musing about geoengineering. We've talked about that too, how they wanted to block the sun in the UK with the help of Bill. I almost want to say Clinton. It's not Clinton, Bill. The Windows guy.
Bill Gates.
Bill Gates, thank you. My brain's not working today. But yeah, we've talked quite a bit about that.
Well, no, there's geoengineering on October 19th if there's a major blizzard and snowstorm. That being said, a lot of people in Alberta Independence have pickup trucks and they'll do whatever it takes to get out and vote that day.
Steve Zafaro says, by the way, my main X account got hacked right after I made pro Alberta posts. Get a backup account.
Oh, so I'm sorry to hear that.
In the US.
And yeah, there's a lot of US content creators getting hacked right now. Rob Noor recently got hacked as well. I got a message from him and I was like, I don't know if I'm going to respond because there's a link there. Yeah. There's a link there. And I had heard him talking about his account getting hacked.
But interesting.
Oh, we have a couple of super chats there.
Interesting that accounts are getting hacked. And Steve, hopefully you can get it back. Sam, thank you so much for the $2 super chat saying, say no to pathways, no pipes until independence. And I think that would be
I think that's a good strategy. I think that make that a slogan.
Yeah. And Smile to Life every day. Thank you for being here again. And for the $5 super chat, thank you so much. Says, thank you for supporting Alberta independence, Alberta first.
Yeah, thank you to all of you for supporting Alberta independence, because that's what makes this channel even possible.
Exactly. And for letting us know how everything is going as well. That's why I like to read all the comments too.
Yeah, and I will say one more other thing. When we first started being content creators, we did reach out to Rob Noor. That was the first channel we were ever on. There were a lot of hiccups with the video feed. We didn't know how to do it and stuff, but we're going to be reaching out to him soon, and hopefully I can start a conversation with him about Alberta independence, and we can start reaching out to more American content creators.
Yes. And lastly, just because I like the sentiment, Philip Oilo says, raise that big blue Alberta flag. Stand firm, ladies and gentlemen. God bless. Thank you so much. And again, from Louisiana.
Well, we were watching, funny enough, we were watching Igor last night.
Oh, yeah.
And you haven't watched a lot of Igor. I watch a lot of Igor. I like him. He's somewhat charming
Igor
there.
Zitzlev,
But he has a huge Alberta flag behind him, and it's just his head and then the whole Alberta flag. And she goes, why doesn't he frame his whole body? I'm like, he needs the Alberta flag in there. That's the most important thing.
And then you did say, I mean, he could turn it around.
He could turn it around.
So to give more space to him.
But yeah, he's got
great.
He's got a great channel. Actually,
we should have
profiled him today.
Yeah, we've been trying to reach out to him to interview him as well. Oh, and thank you so much to, I think it was Justin GP, but thank you so much to the person that sent us via email John Bolt's contact information, because now we're going to contact him for interview as well.
Yeah.
Because it was hard to find how to contact him. So thank you so much. And again, if you have any ideas of who we should contact for interviews or talk to, even canvassers that are open to being interviewed, let us know and we will do that, because we're trying to get as many interviews and as many voices as possible.
Yeah, there's a lot of people within the Alberta independence movement that are a bit bigger that have turned off their messaging on X, so it's hard.
Understandably so.
Understandably so, but it's a little bit harder to get in contact with certain creators. So,
okay, now let's talk about more and even further reasons for Alberta to for Alberta to
what's going on?
tell you today I'm off for Alberta to become independent or going to the Alberta's Canada section.
I'm angry. I've had enough of these people.
And the last comment, I don't know if that's Arabic or they're trying to draw faces with the thing.
Oh, is it? Hold on. Is it?
Oh, wow.
Tal Talks. No, Tal Talks always does that. Hold on. I know Tal Talks. Thank you so much, JP Alberta First, for the $20 super chat. Says, saw a post about a worker at one of the companies that Carney did an announcement from. The worker, I saw it too. The worker overheard that when asked about Alberta, Carney replied it won't happen because he would invoke the Emergencies Act. And I also saw...
Oh, I must have missed that because
Jeff,
that would have been breaking news for the show today. I would have put that up first.
Again, it's like hearsay rumors, but I think Jeff put it up.
Well, yeah, I hope they have have a video of that because Carney. Oh, they don't.
Because I think national media was there and they did not record that.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because
unfortunately,
if anybody works for national media and wants to leak that to us or anybody else, that would be absolutely fantastic for the Alberta independence movement to have Carney on camera saying that.
But we're completely open to also anything that you want to share that happened or want to tell to the world, but you don't want to do it yourself. We're completely open to that. Again, our DMs are open and you can email us.
Oh, and one more thing I might say, we already voted for our independence.
Thank you so much, JP.
We already voted for our independence and left Canada. We broadcast out of Mexico City now. So if censorship does come to Canada and Mark Carney does start arresting content creators or something like that, we can always hide your identity and give you a voice and publish that from outside of Canada. I feel like it's a lot harder for Carney to come after us than it's going to be for him to come after content creators within Canada.
Yeah, within the insane asylum. And no, just to correct you, because it's not Arabic or anything, it's Tal Talks. Thank you so much for being here. And because we don't allow emojis, because we used to get a lot of spam, Tal makes his own emojis. So Tal creates emojis out of random symbols. So hello and thank you for being here.
That almost
just to correct what you were what you said.
That almost reminds me of that movie we watched about space. What was it? Project Hail Mary. One
of the few good movies lately. And it's not that it was amazing. It was just that it was a normal movie that we don't see anymore.
Yeah.
Should we go talk about politics?
Okay, let's talk about politics here. What's the first story I grabbed?
Jasmine Lane saying, quote, the timing.
This is absolutely fantastic. I thought this was the story of the day. Thank you to Jasmine Lane. I almost made it breaking news, but this was a shocking interview. And this goes against everything Mark Carney is trying to build as a narrative for the USMCA.
Which is not going well for them. Jasmine Lane says, quote, the timing of my most recent interview with the U.S. Ambassador Pete Hoekstra. Wow, we discussed what's really going on in these trade talks, Carney's recent speech at Davos and the Liberal Convention, Middle Powers, Iran, and so much more.
Well, and I'll say...
And go watch the full thing as well.
She's interviewed him a few times now, and he's been very generous to Carney, and he hasn't gone hard at the Canadian government. Yeah, he lets it loose here now. And I think this is a big indication of where these trade talks are at.
Yeah, I made a comment months ago about, and I love how that gets twisted here in Canada.
I don't even think you're going to answer this one, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Do you feel as though there is something happening intentionally, or is it is it actually just a really intense negotiation and it's normal for this to kind of be the rhetoric and fallout?
No, actually, it's not an intense negotiation. Okay, there really have been no serious negotiations since October of last year, and that's now betrayal.
That's an interesting point. I haven't heard it explained like that before.
Okay.
Yeah.
We watched this, okay? Talking about, with a smile and a smirk, they're proud of that. They're proud of the fact that they're hurting people in Kentucky. Okay. We want to resolve the disputes on steel. As a matter of fact, we had that pretty much resolved in October, and the Canadians blew that up, okay? It wasn't the Americans. The Canadians did.
But he had said, and I quote, "It started quietly. People."
Oh, you don't have to.
Okay, you're going to quote. You got it.
I think I got into that once before, and all I got into was trouble.
And I was hoping that today was mostly going to be nostalgic and really cool. And then there was a whole lot of stuff that happened over the last 72 hours or so.
I think I heard over the weekend that nostalgia was bad.
Yes. And hope is not a plan. And
yeah,
the relationship has been quoted as a rupture. It's a dangerous divided world, with the insinuation being that that's due to America. We have a hinge moment. The government has even referenced the fall of the Berlin Wall a number of times when describing the situation. And even the international order crumbling. What do you make of that?
In the media debate over the last year have helped create the reality that
Oh no,
Okay.
Mexican internet.
You can leave it there, but I will say this. I've watched all of her interviews she has done with him, and Rebel News has done an interview with him as well. But because she's interviewed him a few times, you can see there's a relationship forming there where she knows how to ask all the right questions, and he's comfortable to ask in a truthful and honest manner. That was an absolutely fantastic interview, and I was shocked at some of the answers he actually gave, because he's been fairly... I wouldn't say he's been tight-lipped, because he has answered honestly, but he hasn't gone against really hard the narrative that Mark Carney has been trying to paint. He absolutely destroyed it in that interview.
So go watch it again, Jasmine Lane. And I will say, as someone that does branding and has done branding for this channel, but other things as well, I really like her logo and her set.
Well, her set is fantastic as well. A lot of people comment on her set.
Yeah, but the logo as well. But I was going to say something. And with the USMCA trade talks coming up and Mexico also being included in there, the whole focus is on Canada and the U.S., but interestingly enough, the U.S. and Mexico can continue to do pretty good negotiation behind closed doors negotiations and trade regarding the USMCA and the trade talks. However, it comes out in the media and the papers as, oh, it's breaking down as well, but no, it's actually not. It's actually going pretty well, because of course Mexico knows that they do have to kind of do what the U.S. says.
Yeah, and I really do hope Jasmine Lane, as the national content creator, does come over to Alberta Independence as this thing advances. I know Clyde Do Something right now is the only national content creator that's talking about Alberta Independence, supporting it, and bringing people on his show that are talking about it, because he has more of a national audience. It's very shocking that he's even willing to talk about it, because every other national content creator isn't. But he has worked with Jasmine Lane in the past, so hopefully...
Or not even like come over, but talk about it.
Yeah.
And open up the subject that is so obviously there, but clearly it's like a hot potato nobody wants to touch.
Well, they don't want to touch it because most of their audience are a national audience, and they're scared to fracture that audience, number one, and they don't want to get on the wrong side of Pierre Poilievre, because Poilievre is the one that helped grow a lot of these channels.
Yeah, but especially now with the majority, it seems even dumber not to ignore it so much. Like even now knowing that for the next 3 years, not much we'll be able to do. And if you continue to just try to talk about polling and, oh, Mark Carney said this, Mark Carney said that, when you have Alberta independence right there that you could be speaking about it and even using as an example of the reality that is Canada, that a whole province is trying to become independent and leave the insane asylum, then I don't know.
Okay,
I don't know what to tell you. Speaking of Poilievre...
Well, you went right into my talking points for this article here, actually.
Oh, sorry. Speaking of Western Standard says, quote, Poilievre condemns Liberal majority as backroom deal demands full gas tax relief. Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
Well, yeah. Well, what's he demanding? He's demanding... Carney has a majority government at this point. The best Poilievre's going to do is demand. We know there's not another election for 3 years. Carney's looking at a supermajority if he keeps getting enough floor crossers. So he's going to be able to push everything through. And Poilievre's answer for everything is, I demand you don't do that. I demand you don't do that. He's no longer giving hope to national conservatives. He's no longer controlled opposition because there is no more hope in Pierre Poilievre, and that's why
he's no longer real opposition.
that's why there's so many national conservatives willing to move to Alberta now, because they've lost all hope in national Canadian politics. They actually want to move to the U.S., but they're looking at Alberta first as a real hope.
And I will say, understandably and rightfully so, having lost all hope.
Yeah.
I lost it a while ago. When we moved, when we decided to move. Mark Nixon says, quote, BC government is about to fall because the NDP's obsession over DRIPA. The only one to blame here is David Eby.
Yeah. And again, as one of our commenters had said, there's another agreement going forward with another tribe of only 400 members, massive land giveaway with a future land giveaway that actually increases that the federal government is going to give them money for, so they can buy more land and then have that given to the tribe again.
And again, this is talking about the private property rights issue and the First Nations land grab that's going on in British Columbia right now, with help of the UN.
Grand Chief Stuart Phillip says his wife, NDP MLA Joan Phillip, is opposed to Premier David Eby's plan to suspend sections of DRIPA, the government's landmark legislation on Indigenous reconciliation.
She does not support the suspension. She does not support any tinkering or meddling with DRIPA.
CBC News was not able to speak with Joan Phillip herself, but sources say several NDP MLAs voiced concerns about Eby's plan at a caucus meeting on Thursday. Eby says keeping DRIPA as is would have serious legal consequences following a court decision on Indigenous consultation and mining.
That is opening the door to a tidal wave of litigation.
Eby could introduce the changes as early as next week and pledged to make it a confidence motion. First Nations leaders are urging NDP MLAs to vote with their conscience, even if that could bring down the government.
And just want to call on the MLAs in the House that stand for human rights.
Okay, you can leave it there. It's CBC. I don't want to get dinged too much there, but he's going to bring in some kind of legislation that looks like he did something so he can say he did something, and then he's going to push more behind closed doors. All these DRIPA negotiations and these First Nations negotiations are going on behind closed doors, and then they bring it into the light after the framework's already kind of been decided, and then they vote on it. And One BC is the only party within British Columbia standing up against it, and they have no real political power, which is a damn shame.
But once again, in BC, they pass legislation, they do all these things to ruin the province further and further, take away private property rights, make all illegal substances legal now, and then they realize, oh, it's unpopular, oh, it's not, people are actually going to do something, people are actually bringing legal challenges now, whereas they don't really care, but they tried to then kind of reverse it and say, no, please keep voting for me, please keep liking me. But behind closed doors, I'll continue to do what I was doing because the deal is just way too good.
Yeah, a lot of money is going into politicians' pockets here. These are fake UN laws made up by the UN, adopted by British Columbia, turned into a reality, and now private property rights are disappearing, not just in BC, but they're going to start disappearing across Canada through the 30 by 30 program, which Mark Carney is trying to implement on a federal level.
Let's look at what happened this Monday regarding Conservatives. Marty Up North says, quote, "It doesn't look like the Conservatives really even tried to campaign. Was that intentional on their part?" And I will add and continue to say, this was Pierre Poilievre's biggest mistake during the actual federal campaign, that he didn't do anything, and now he's going on his little US tour trying to see and talk to podcasters when it doesn't do anything and it's completely pointless. But it seems like it's the story that repeats itself. Kirk Lubimov says, quote, "The story of the by-elections was the total collapse of Conservative voters."
Well, this is absolutely crazy how these vote counts ended up shaping out in all these ridings. The Conservatives just fell off an absolute cliff. The only campaigning I seen by Conservatives wasn't by an actual Conservative party. It was by freaking Rebel News with their the van with the screen on the side, and then they were reporting and asking actual hard questions. Why is Rebel News your main campaign wing? It should be the Conservative Party. They did not stand up. It's like they are controlled opposition, and they just gave these three away. Now, I do realize two of the three they were going to lose anyway, but they could have made a difference in possibly the one.
Or at least help inch it a bit more towards the bloc, which would be even the same, but at least it wouldn't give the actual majority that quickly.
Yeah.
And some more people would have had to been bought off. I can't talk today.
You're losing it.
Yes.
And too many donuts today.
I didn't even eat a donut today. Mine's over there.
Oh, yours is on the counter. I might eat it later.
No, National Post says, he ate 2 donuts. National Post says, quote,
1.5.
National Post says, with government press releases claiming that Canada's defense budget meets NATO's 2% per GDP target, Canadians might think we've become serious about defense, but our allies and our enemies have reason to question that.
Yeah, and we're not going to go into the whole article, but this was a good article. But I have been talking a lot about how Mark Carney is not meeting these quotas of 2% or 5%. It's up for debate how much you're actually supposed to make, but a lot of the budget is actually going for Canadian infrastructure and not towards the military. And he's writing it off as military spending. I'm not going to be surprised if he tries to write this $90 billion train off as defense spending. and Trump already knows this because the EU is trying to play that same underhanded tricks, and he's called them out. So he's definitely looking at Canada and knows exactly how they're spending this money.
But before we go to stories about Alberta and the world, or things that converge, or right, especially currently right now with the Irish protests, which we will talk about during that section, we will read some of your comments. It's between the pollution and the sun today. I can't talk. Hold on. Where were we? Everybody's saying it's snowing. Oh, I found it because I want to be able to read the ones that are interesting.
Oh, and I will say, when you complain about pollution, Mexico City is the only real city. I've lived in Los Angeles as well. Vancouver was actually very clean as far as the air quality, but Mexico City, man, if you go downtown, it's almost like a thick fog you're walking into sometimes.
You can see it if you're like going down into Mexico City. You can see the layer, the shaky layer.
But in Mexico City, a lot of people don't understand how big the population here is in this city. It's the largest city in North America by a landslide.
Mm-hmm. Okay, where were we? Down with Carney, says Edward. Yes. Rage Against the Machine says it should be a mandatory day off for Albertans to go and vote.
Absolutely. And well, maybe, I mean, Danielle Smith could make it a national day to go vote, especially if she keeps taking the line that there are a lot of grievances within Alberta and people want their voice to be heard. I'm going to allow democracy to go forward, and I'm going to make sure everybody has the day off work that day.
Mm-hmm. Where are we? James says, what could be the talking points? What could the talking points even be at this point? More floor crossers, higher taxes and food costs? Exactly. Rage says, Pierre Poilievre has been for years, controlled opposition, and now just literally, like, it was opposition-ish, and now it's fully controlled, in my opinion.
Well, we do a show every day about Alberta independence, and we talk about almost all of the issues. The hardest thing to do is to focus on what issues you actually want to zero in on and talk about, because there are thousands of issues and the federal government just keeps stacking up more and more issues of why Alberta independence is the only way forward.
Mm-hmm. And James says, I finally caught up so I can put them up on screen. James B says, guarantee the main argument will be the absolute BS about uncertainty. But the simple reply should be that billions have already left Canada.
Well, it's certain you're going to fall off a cliff if you continue on with Canada. Yeah. One of the best arguments was, you're going to be landlocked if you separate. It's obvious you're already landlocked by your own federal government at this point. At least you have leverage if you separate in negotiations with British Columbia to try to get access to the coast, and you already have a willing trading partner to yourself.
Mm-hmm. And Sam says, exactly, the ghost, which I couldn't see, but you can say a referendum requires more than 51% if your own government gives a majority by one seat.
Yeah.
Ghost of a Chance also says, Ottawa is simply a conduit to transfer Alberta energy revenues to Quebec to keep power solidified.
Yeah.
Oh, and this is interesting. Escape from Canada says, moving to Alberta from BC and Puerto Vallarta.
Oh, fantastic.
So from Mexico and BC to Alberta.
And there are a lot of people considering Alberta within British Columbia. I knew a lot of truckers, a lot of people in the security industry. Even before we left, this was 4 years ago, I was talking to a lot of people, and they were all talking about moving to Alberta. And this was before Alberta independence was really big. Now that it is huge, all those people that were talking and thinking about it are going to be taking action.
Carl Solomon says, I bought a place in Big Valley, Alberta from Nova Scotia.
Oh, fantastic.
And it's great to hear, again, people that are actually actioning it and have already done it, or are thinking already and putting plans in place to do it, to move to Alberta. Rage says,
well, and there's a lot of land. If you can live remotely and you don't have to live in a city, that land is actually very cheap in Alberta if you get outside of the major cities.
Rage says there's nothing to fear but fear itself. Canuck says when Alberta does separate, a lot of Albertans will return home. Even before it happens, there's a movement felt across Canada.
Yeah, and I've talked about that in the past too. This is not just a great migration from within Canada to Alberta. It's everybody that was disenfranchised before now moving back to Alberta. And I'm going to attempt to get residency in Alberta as well. I've been a resident of British Columbia for a long time.
James B says, and we will 1,000% help Saskatchewan out.
Yeah,
which
I said. Thank you for that comment. And if anybody is from Saskatchewan and watches our show, let us know.
Yes. James B says, smash the like button, guys. Yes, thank you so much. And Edward also says, only 3 likes? Come on, people. Thank you so much. JP also says, click the like button. It really does help, so thank you.
And we're trying to get to 100 likes every show. I noticed once we started hitting that mark of 100 likes, it has been pushing the show out a lot more.
Brian Sen, hello, hadn't seen you over here, says, what do you think of the possibility of Alberta and Saskatchewan joining together during independence?
I like them to each have their own individual independence movement. Number one, it gives you 2 cracks at the egg there. And Saskatchewan's going to be able to learn from Alberta. Though my big criticism of Saskatchewan is, number one, Scott Moe. He, on the surface, tries to act like he's conservative and he's in favor of a lot of policies that the independence movement would be in, but he's not helping the Saskatchewan independence movement like Danielle Smith has by lowering the vote, how many votes you need to trigger a referendum and stuff like that. It's just taking them a little bit too long. I hope they're a little bit quicker to move because Carney is starting to mount up roadblocks for future independence
movements.
Referendums.
Philip Solview says, click the like button, spread the news. Thank you so much. Rage says, I hope so. I was born in Saskatchewan. And Charlie Defoe says, I hope Manitoba is paying attention too.
Yeah.
Edward says,
but Manitoba has a real bad leader though. As much of a hard time I give Scott Moe, that guy from Manitoba is something else.
Edward says, I watch those freedom calendars all the time. Good.
Oh,
Continue
fantastic.
to do so. Go subscribe to him as well. James says, how can you have a democracy without freedom of speech? You can't. It's not true. It doesn't exist.
Well, and
so that should tell you a lot about a lot of countries around the world right now.
Yeah. And the big question is becoming, what do you want more, freedom of speech or freedom of movement? Because if you speak freely in Canada pretty soon with Mark Carney bringing in all these censorship bills, he's going to take your freedom of movement.
Mm-hmm. Rage says, hope is stronger than fear. Liberty is not a gift handed down by the powerful. It is a flame kept alive by ordinary people who refuse to bow their heads.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
And we'll go with 3 more comments before we go into the next section.
The world. Sean says...
Alberta and the world.
Alberta and the world. Sean says, it's storming and cold here in Oregon. So apparently it's all over the place, the cold front or cold trend. Hold on. David Bird says, Marilyn Gladue was my MP in Sarnia a week ago, and there was good-sized crowd of very angry protesters. There should be.
That's good to hear. And I will say there is a lot of support in Washington State and in Oregon, especially on the eastern half of those provinces. A lot of people think when they think of Washington and Oregon, they think, oh, these are liberal states. No, they're not. The eastern half has their own independence movements, or they want to separate from the western half of those states. Mm-hmm. Because they're so different minded. And a lot of people from those states are watching and kind of supporting Alberta independence. Sorry, I'm losing my words now.
Sam says, Nat feels the Emergencies Act won't happen. It's not that I don't feel that it won't happen. I'll continue in a bit. It says the appeal does not look good, but it has yet to be started. And that is true. And again, that is one of the mechanisms that he could use. But at the same time, he has to know and he has to be thinking as well. And maybe this is just pure hope on my part. But if Alberta leaves, he secures liberal rule for ever, ad infinitum, forever. He gets kind of a monarchy of liberal rule forever because Alberta is the one conservative stronghold that kind of keeps the conservatives even up or alive. That is also why a lot of national conservatives are scared to speak about Alberta independence because they know that that's the only chance they have to even be heard or get some votes anymore.
Danielle Smith is the only one that really pushes back hard against federal policies and builds a framework to push back that other provinces then emulate. They want to get rid of all the headaches Alberta is possibly giving the federal government. They want to federalize Canada. Mark Carney has made that clear. Mm-hmm. Alberta is the one big thing standing in that way. hopefully he just says, let's get rid of the headache and I can federalize the rest of Canada, and he lets them have independence. I don't plan for that. I'm planning for the toughest opponent possible, but I have brought up that that is a possibility.
Yeah, no, but when I said no, I said, I hope not. I mean, I hope he doesn't invoke it, but he is clearing the way for him to be able to do so because he's challenging the Supreme Court ruling. So, I mean, that is worrying, and that is why we should plan for the worst case scenario.
Well, and if he uses the Emergencies Act, he's going to use it before the vote, not after the vote, because that is when it has a maximum impact.
Exactly. Ghost of a Chance says they got away with it with zero repercussions, so the field is wide open. And Sam says it really comes down to the Supreme Court. Don't remember all these court cases when Quebec won it out. Exactly. And it is very different. But again, we know kind of where the justice system in Canada lies. And we're seeing it both with the injunction case from the First Nations in Alberta, but with any other case, we know it's been completely captured ideologically. So, I mean, I don't expect much from the Supreme Court unless they get the heads out of the sand, but that's pretty much impossible. But let's move to Alberta and the world, speaking specifically about the Irish protests. And there's a lot of connections there, building and building more and more, which is good.
And again, I have been really enjoying talking about these Irish protests because I really feel like they need the voice of the world and they need people to stand with them. And I think people from Alberta and people in Canada that were so passionate about the truckers' protest are starting to speak up. We've kind of covered it almost every day that it's happened, and other people slowly have been raising their voice too within Alberta, whether that's Tomorrow, whether that's John Bolton, you name it, they're starting to speak up, and it's good to see.
Yes, and we did miss one from the other section, but it actually kind of goes into the world because it's U.S.
Okay.
So should I play that one?
Yeah, let's play it.
Theo Fleury says, quote, Carney's banking friends are betting on Trump and saying no to Carney. Canada is in big trouble financially.
Global Reserve bankers are voting on Canada and Mark Carney. And guess what? They're dumping Mark Carney. Mark Carney's own group of peers, Global Reserve bankers. A report has just come out that was put in the Canadian Financial Post that talks about how all the global bankers are dumping the Canadian dollar starting in last quarter. Not last quarter, all of last year. Last quarter, they dumped over $35 billion in Canadian reserve currency. Over the course of the whole year, they dumped over $50 billion of Canadian dollars. Where did some of the money go? A lot of it went to the U.S. and Trump. People are betting on Trump and trade with the U.S. Where does the reserve currencies come in? Well, let's look at it this way. It's sort of like you have a second home maybe in the States. So what do? You keep a second American bank account, right? With some American money down there so you can pay your bills and do stuff because you know you're going to be doing a lot of business in America with your second home.
Pause it for a
It's the
second.
same thing for...
And we'll let this continue, but I will say Mark Carney's even betting on the United States at this point. All of his investments are down there. All of his kids are down there. All of his assets are down there. Everything's invested in the U.S. Even he sees Canada's falling off a cliff, but he says how great the economy is, how great Canada is. Why isn't he invested in Canada? It should be illegal to do what Mark Carney is doing.
And all his oil assets are also over in the Middle East and a bunch of other countries except for Canada from his Brookfield Asset Management.
Reserve currencies. You want to put it in a safe currency that's not going to just wither away and die. It's not the Canadian currency, by the way. And you want to have it in a place that you think you're going to be doing more trade with. But if you're going to be doing less trade, like you're getting rid of that house in America, you're going to rent it out for the next 3 years, or you're going to sell it, there's no need for you to keep the American accounts once you get rid of it. So the voters with their dollars are voting Mark Carney out, and they're voting up on the U.S. That's where the investments are going and into the U.S. stocks. In fact, another report came out that showed more Canadians are starting businesses in the U.S. than are Canadians starting businesses.
Okay, and you can leave it there. And I will say we have covered a lot of what is going on in the U.S. There's a lot of propaganda saying how Trump is destroying the economy. Well, this is the first time since Trump has been in office that the United States has outgrown China with its GDP. And it's only been 1 year into his administration. He's been doing a fantastic job. The amount of money that's coming back in and the amount of manufacturing that is being built. And a lot of people are saying, well, I don't see it being built. It is being built. And what he's allowing these companies to do is write off 10 years of their taxes within a 2-year period if they can get these manufacturing facilities built. So they're being built at record paces. And that's why job numbers in the United States are going up. Construction workers, it is booming for them down there.
But now actually moving on to the Irish protests and John Bolton with an interesting opinion that I pretty much share. John Bolton says, quote, Irish protests inspiring Canadians. Don't hold your breath. Canada is too far.
Well, and it's good to see another person from Alberta speaking up for the Irish because there's a lot of censorship going on there. We need to get the message out there for them.
Hi, it's John, and welcome to the channel. It is 5:03 a.m., Wednesday, April the 15th. I hope you're having a great start to your Wednesday morning. I appreciate you being here. And just once again, I'd like to thank you for supporting this channel. I hit 50,000 subscribers yesterday.
And huge congrats to John Bolton on that as well. We said it yesterday, but...
And we profiled him just before he hit 50,000. So I'm glad not only us, but everybody else got him over that 50,000 mark.
And if you haven't subscribed, please click on subscribe. I would appreciate it. And a reminder that clicking on the big blue mug does not subscribe you to the channel. A lot of people are following along with what's going on in Ireland. There have been these protests there for, I think, about a week now, maybe a little bit more. People saying there's a similarity here between what went on in Ottawa and what's going on in Ireland right now, meaning the trucker convoy a few years ago. There are a lot of similarities between what's going on in Ireland and Canada right now, more than what the mainstream media is willing to tell you. Here's an article from the CBC. Fuel protests in Ireland continue as pumps run dry, prices rise amid war in Middle East. Now, there's a lot more going on with this story than just gas prices. There's a lot of similarities between the problems Ireland has right now and what's going on here in Canada. Of course, the CBC frames...
We're not going to play the whole video, but the point he makes here, he's absolutely bang on.
Mm-hmm. And go watch the full video after.
This as there's protests because of high gas prices, because of the war in the Middle East. And what do we blame the war in the Middle East on? Donald Trump. But they're not telling you the whole story here. Now, I want to talk about this from the standpoint of the Liberal government, the people who vote Liberal in Canada, and what a lot of YouTubers are saying right now, which I find rather puzzling. And some of these YouTubers are people I really admire. Now, why am I talking about this today? Because this video has gone viral. If you haven't seen it, you'll enjoy it. If you have seen it, you'll enjoy it again.
The reality is they blamed Trump for absolutely everything. We've heard government get up and stand about Trump. Donald Trump isn't in charge of NORA. He's not in charge of the carbon tax in this country. He's not in charge of that in this country. And he's not in charge of excise. And all of a sudden, he's gaslighting the country saying he's concerned. He's concerned about the 900,000 people on waiting lists. All of a sudden, he's concerned about the 60,000 people on housing lists.
It's an extraordinary speech. It goes on for about a minute and a half. And I didn't play the whole thing because he refers to things in Ireland I didn't know about in People as well. But he talks about the healthcare problems in Ireland. He talks about the housing problems in Ireland, carbon tax problems in Ireland. We're going to talk more about that probably in the upcoming days. And of course, all of this. And he starts off by saying, you blame everything on Trump, but it's your fault. Sound familiar?
And you can leave it there. And that's a fantastic point. All these countries invested in globalism and didn't build strong internal economies. And you needed to build strong internal economies. Canada had everything to build that strong internal economy, and it did exactly the opposite. If you build a strong internal economy and then build trade partners on top of that, and then you have a strong alliance. But this is why we see globalism crumbling and people pushing back against their own government.
But also why they blame Trump, because he did do what they number one, didn't want to do, but number two, he's leaving me. Number two, were too cowardly to do themselves and to get themselves out of the mess that they put their own countries in for the past 50, 60, whatever how many years that this gong show has been going on of the policies that they've wanted to implement with supranational organizations as well, non-elected, like the EU, like NATO, like the UN, etc. And because they want to continue with the charade, because that is number one, what they worked so hard to implement, but number two, what they think will continue to raise their own power and raise their own ability to have this control over the people that they already obtained, well, then they have to go against the one person that is trying to dismantle those systems and dismantle that way of not in this way ruling, but ruling over the country as the country that they've been doing for the longest time.
It's a lot more simple. If they just blame everything on Trump, they can continue to destroy their own countries with their liberal policies. And that's kind of what's going on.
That's kind of what I said, but with more flourish. But let's see the other side of what the Irish politicians are saying.
Pure propaganda here coming from an Irish woman. Absolutely disgusting here.
Irishman says, quote, the protests.
Let's pay attention to what she's saying. And you might not understand what she's saying because she's calling it the tri-flag. Because the Irish flag has 3 different colors. They don't want to call it the Irish flag.
The tricolored flag.
Yeah.
Irishman says, quote, the protests were overtook by the far right. Sound familiar, Canada? Sound familiar, Alberta? This is a narrative they started to try to paint onto the Alberta independence movement, and I think they will continue once it ramps up. And once they ramp up the anti-narrative, they'll start using this again, because it's very useful for the lemmings in the breast of Canada that live in the insane asylum. Senator Eileen Flynn says she won't attend any protest that has a tricolor flag.
Driving miles at 8 o'clock at night, that's on night shift for work. What about the migrant workers? I didn't attend any of those protests, and the reason why I didn't, it was overtook by the far right. It was overtook by the far right. We had a lot of hard-working people first come out and the protests. But look, for me, where I see the tri-flag, I'm terrified to be part of. I'm terrified to be part of any protest where I see a tri-flag.
I'm terrified to be part of anywhere I see an Irish flag. When she's saying tri-flag, what she's actually saying is the Irish flag. They don't want to say Irish flag.
That's an absolute disgrace in the country as a public representative, afraid to go to any protest where there's a tri-flag. So much hatred out there towards people from migrant backgrounds. And yet, we have a health system that's barely standing. And it wouldn't be standing, I've said this numerous times, if we didn't have migrant workers in our hospitals.
If you weren't flooded with so much legal mass immigration that you now can't get rid of, you wouldn't need so many hospital workers. You need those hospital workers, you need those immigrants to work at the hospitals because you increased your population by so much.
To service the other immigrants. So, circular.
Something that we should all be highlighting to the far right, and it boils my blood to even waste a second in talking about these people who are just spreading hate, rumours, lies. I don't even know what I have would if I was a TD.
What she's doing?
I have supported a vote of no confidence in the government.
Okay, and it's actually good to see, because when they keep talking about far right, they've been saying these same talking points for a decade now. They're no longer landing like they used to. So it's good to see that she's like a time capsule, a time machine. She's trying to bring up talking points that just aren't going to work anymore. But the very important thing from that clip was her talking about the tri-flag. They don't even want to call the Irish flag anymore. They're scared of it. And let's see what the police are doing to that Irish flag.
No, but wait, I do want to see. The first comment under this post was, "My big scary flag outside my house in Canada." So there you go.
And let's see what the police are doing to that Irish flag within these protests. And this is an absolute disgrace.
Liz Churchill saying horrible, quote, "The Irish Gestapo are openly disrespecting their country's flag as the citizens continue to protest against their treasonous government and climate Satanists." But also let's remember, they did something very similar when people were hanging up the actual UK flag and the actual British flag a few months ago too. And they're going to say it's because they had a poll.
But I will say this. If you're watching from Ireland, do not let them take that flag and turn it into a National Socialist flag. This is what they did in Canada with the Canadian flag. The Canadian flag represented freedom and independence during the truckers' convoy. That's when it really came to prominence. The Conservatives had a hold of that symbol, and Mark Carney slowly captured the Canadian flag, turned it into this National Socialism identity, and it's absolutely ridiculous.
With his oil up campaign, Trump TDS.
What he's doing with that flag, and now the Alberta flag is that flag of freedom, independence, and hope.
And that is why Inuk got it stolen in Ontario, from the house in Ontario, because now that is what it represents.
Exactly.
Which they used to happen with the Canadian flag too. But moving on to the U.S., Mario Naufel says, quote, "Canada is really itching."
Hold on. And, well, no, it's not the U.S. This is Canada.
Well, Canada and the U.S.
I just wanted to bring up the fact that, you can read it.
Okay. Mario Naufel says, quote, "Canada is really itching to pick a fight with the U.S., stonewalling numerous strategic interests and rare earths, oil and gas access, and rearming. Carney tells Canadians they can't rely on America. Meanwhile, 550 of his 673 declared assets are American-owned. But the bigger issue isn't his portfolio, it's his policy. Burdened by a globalist mindset and mandate, Carney and co. are blocking several efforts to allow increased emergency oil and gas distribution to bypass the Strait of Hormuz. The parties that can assist the US and Asia are sanctioned by none other than Canada, even though Europe, the US, and even Australasia either have no sanctions or have dropped them long time ago. This is all thanks to a strong Ukrainian lobby around Carney. While the US and its allies scramble for rare earths, ammunition, and energy alternatives, Canada is sitting on sanctions it imposed after Russia invaded Ukraine and hasn't touched since, despite being dropped by every other country. Banks can't offer LCs or facilities owing to the Canadian holdouts. So everything stays stuck in limbo.
Can kind of leave it there and go back up to the top. I mainly brought this up because Mario Newfall is talking about this. He's a Christian from the Middle East, and we need to start reaching out to content creators like this. I'm glad he's shining a light on what's going on with Carney in Canada, and he's been doing it on a consistent basis. So I really hope he starts focusing on Alberta independence at some point. Because he's bringing it to, he has a very, very large international audience, not just American audience, because he's an international content creator.
And he does a lot of geopolitics.
A ton of geopolitics.
Yeah, we used to use him a lot for our show.
And he has daily interviews. He probably does 3 or 4 major interviews a day. Yes. So
someone else I really do like is Peter St. Ong saying, quote, "Happy April 15th. Today you give a third of everything you make for government to waste, fraud, and abuse. What if we got rid of the income tax?" And again, this is a very interesting conversation because Alberta, a free and independent Alberta, can really start to ponder that as soon as they get rid of Canada.
Well, and that's why I brought this up, because Alberta is going to be able to get rid of income tax. And if people knew the history of income tax, there used to be not as many wars because these countries couldn't have income tax. It's when income tax came in that wars really shot through the roof.
Mm-hmm.
Happy Tax Day is April 15th, the day you hand over a third of everything you make for government to waste, fraud, and abuse. The federal government now steals
And more in Canada, mind you, I remind you.
Taxes just over $5 trillion, while states and locals pile on for another $2.5 trillion, coming to almost $1 in $3 of personal income. For perspective, the entire time since Nicolas Maduro goose-stepped into the port of New York, you thought you were working for yourself, but you were actually working for government. Put differently, you work for the feds Monday, you work for state and local Tuesday, you don't put anything in your pocket until you're making weekend plans. Now, a third is roughly 20 times what the British were trying to tax in the Boston Tea Party. We are free at last. Alas, we do not have tea parties anymore, partly because they don't make Americans like they used to, but partly because that stolen third is hidden. The devil's brew of tax withholding, hiding taxes by putting them on the employer, they look like lower salaries, and embedding taxes where the trucker bought tax diesel, Publix paid property tax and payroll tax, and none of it is listed on the bananas. So where did it go wrong and how to make it right? The original sin, of course, was the income tax passed right before World War I. Indeed, it's a big reason we had a world war. In the old days, governments could not afford them. The income tax was originally promised to soak the rich, starting around $15 million in modern terms, at rates of 1 to 7%. Perhaps you will recognize the sales pitch, millionaires will pay pennies on the dollar. Of course, tax the rich was bait as the rates went up and the tax spread, so today it hits everybody over $15,000 at a top rate of 39%, 52% if you are in California. Not including, of course, the billions of hours Americans spend trying to figure out their taxes under threat of imprisonment, only slightly less fun than a root canal. So what would it take to get rid of it? It's actually very easy. Congress can pass a bill tomorrow. After all, the 16th Amendment allows an income tax. It does not require one. They will not. Congress exists to pillage, but what if they did? The federal government would lose $2.5 trillion of funding. They'd have to slash foreign aid, treasury bailouts for bankers, welfare for the able-bodied, grants to left-wing rioters, overseas wars, 1 Iran per generation. Pace yourself. Even the Somali leering centers, no more leering on the taxpayer dime. You have to throw away the entire welfare industrial complex and the fraud industrial complex it built. In return, you keep roughly $20,000 a year in taxes, but more important, the economy takes off, which could triple that. The reason is just like cigarette tax reduces smoking, income tax reduces income. Discourages work, entrepreneurship, job creation.
And Alberta really needs to be thinking about how they want to do taxes. I'm all in favor of no taxes and taxing corporations and the natural resource sector. Alberta has enough natural resources. They can really have a different tax model, much like a lot of oil-rich countries already do. Also, if you are going to have a tax, maybe a very, very small tax, like a 5% flat tax, so it's not muddled and there's no way for corporations to get around a lot of these tax policies.
Yes, but now I will finally be able to read all the rest of your comments and respond to them. And after we do head over to RUMBLE, we are going to play that speech from the Irish House. I don't know which one of them was. It was, and a bunch of other stories that YouTube doesn't like that
And
much.
we're going to be out by about 6:55, and we're going to head over to RUMBLE. So we'll read a few comments here. Sorry we couldn't get to all the comments today. We really did try.
DeBilver says, Sam, isn't it going to the Supreme Court? Case government is fighting it. Because the government is fighting it. Talking about the Emergencies Act and trying to overturn it via the Supreme Court again.
And even if he doesn't get it overturned, he can still use it again. There's just going to be more outrage when he does.
And more, hopefully more investigations into it, but I mean, that's just a dream. Sam says, yes, Dill, he's fighting to overturn the illegality judgment of it because he wants to be able to use it. Carney is a snake, make no mistake.
Yeah,
that would go good on a t-shirt.
that is a good
Somebody
slogan for a
make it.
t-shirt. But I said that right from the beginning. He's only trying to challenge it because a lot of people thought he was going to kind of let it die, but he brought the challenge to the Supreme Court because he does want to use it, like they said there. And I've been talking about that for weeks now.
Justin GP
And
said,
why does he want to use it? There's only one issue you want to use it for in Canada right now, and that's Alberta independence.
Exactly.
There's no other reason you want it.
Justin GP says, UNDRIP didn't need to be implanted or implemented. It was a recommendation only, and BC adopted it. Exactly. But they've been recommending it to a bunch of different countries, including all over Latin America.
Not just BC. It's happening in Chile, Central America, Europe. It's happening all over the place. In BC, it's happening under First Nations. In other places, it's happening under Aboriginal lands.
Mm-hmm. Troglodyte says, seeing where Canada is heading, what do you have to lose by leaving? Nothing.
Well, you don't need to leave right away. You can move to Alberta first, vote for independence.
Well, I mean, Alberta
Yeah.
by leaving, yeah. Justin GP says, UN suggestion only, then woke BC makes it law. Typical. And BC has passed, and again, we've talked about how...
Well, then BC makes it law, sets the precedent for the rest of Canada, and then it's brought up all the way across. Alberta's lucky that all their First Nations tribes had already ceded that land.
And we have talked about how in Vancouver specifically, but also BC in general, it feels like and it looks like they do pass and test a lot of laws and legislation that then they want to implement across not just the rest of Canada, but into the US as well. Because a lot of things that get adopted, and even Europe, a lot of things that get adopted first in Vancouver and then that don't work, and then they have to back off of it, start being implemented elsewhere as well. It happens similarly in Seattle. Sam says it's EB. He and Carney come from the same pit of hell. Yeah. Joseph Chan says, just Federal Court of Appeal, my error. Yes. Sam says, TDS to Laurentia is like Kool-Aid to Jonestown.
Yeah.
Justin JP says, where's Mexico City's carbon tax? I mean, we do kind of have one because we have a mechanism. It's been in place for decades now, since I was little, where certain cars of certain makes and models that make X amount of emissions cannot drive 1 or 2 days a week. It depends on what kind of license plate you have.
Oh, I could blow your mind with a lot of the policies.
So we do have some.
With a lot of policies that are here in Mexico. They're even worse.
But nobody listens to them. Sorry.
Anything else?
Yeah, that's it.
They're even far worse than Canada. The issue is they don't have mechanisms to actually enforce them at the level where you would actually notice. There's a ton of feminist laws. They're making it. Why don't you talk about the feminist law for the senators and stuff they're trying to bring in?
So the way that they're going to implement or trying to implement hate speech here is by gendered political violence. So they have already implemented laws that go and go against gender political violence, obviously only against women, against men.
Okay,
If you say
it's getting
anything,
muddled. I shouldn't have had you describe it.
if you say anything against men, they won't do anything. But for example, somebody posted, a random citizen posted on X something against a Mexican senator, I believe it was, and she got sanctioned. She got imposed.
That's not what I'm talking about.
Okay, then which one are you
I'm talking about the senators that you have to be a woman to run.
Oh yes, that too. There's of course
Not
gender
of course.
parity.
People don't know about this in Canada or around the
in
world.
Canada-
It's absolutely shocking.
Well, because in Canada, that's
Just
also
explain it really quick and to
in
the
Canada
point.
they also implemented that. There's gender parity laws, so you have to be able. You can only be a woman to run in certain states for these upcoming midterm elections because they want more women in power.
Which is
the way
crazy.
it's being used is the current governors of those states are just going to put their wives up so they can continue to be in power. So that's kind of the irony of Mexico, that yes, they try to implement all these woke things, but then people find ways to bend it to their will and make it even more ironic.
But you do get a lot of freedom through chaos here, and that's the big thing. Canada has complete compliance, and it's authoritarian from the top down, and when they implement something, they make sure everybody following
follows
it. Here, it's not like that.
Thank you so much to Sam, but some crazy people do. Thank you so much to Sam for the $2 super
you,
chat
Sam.
thing. Super appreciate the work you do, NNG. And thank you so much for commenting so much on today's stream. I'm sorry I didn't get to all of them, but they were having interesting discussions as well about the emergency sector.
Yeah, absolutely. And if we continue to have very large audiences, we're going to do our best to read a lot of the comments, but we always stop the show for super chats. So that's one way to get it read, I guess.
David Bird says, how is air pollution in Mexico City? I was there 40 years ago. Since I was little, it actually did get better. It was way worse before, but it's still, of course, an issue. Number one, because freedom through chaos, yes, there's laws in place, but not a lot of people listen to them. And not a lot of people get actually, it's not sanctioned. What's the word I'm looking for?
Restricted?
Restricted. Not a lot of people actually get restricted, so there's still a lot of pollution out there. But if you live not in the downtown core, then it's not as bad.
I've been to well over 100 major cities worldwide, and Mexico City is by far the worst air pollution that I've ever seen. But as soon as-
China, I'm sure, is
if you
worse,
get out of the city and go into the mountains, it improves almost immediately.
Yes. Rage Against the Machine says, says, Berta gonna be a boom town again.
Absolutely. And it's going to show the rest of the world how it's done and
Especially
why
Canada.
conservative policies work.
Yeah, especially Canada. Justin GP says, that and guy gonna win some YouTube awards soon. I don't think YouTube really likes what we talk about or what we have to say, but it'd be funny and ironic if we ever did.
Yeah. Although I will say this, and I was talking to you about this today, I was watching a lot of the analysis of the Hungarian elections. They had a plant candidate kind of take out Orban. But what they were saying are the globalists are trying to rebrand themselves as right-wing populists so they can get elected and then hold the line on some right-wing populist issues so people won't complain too much and then shove through a lot of liberal globalist policies because the guy that beat Orban was actually more right-wing than Orban, at least on the surface.
Technically.
He's not really.
But again, it is funny that they realize that even their own policies don't work and that what the other side has been doing is what's actually effective.
So let's just be aware going forward. There's a good possibility the globalists are trying to currently rebrand themselves as right-wing populists.
Yes. The Billboard says, smile. That's one reason why moving, because Canada is going down. Sam says, Saskatchewan is on the sidelines the day after Alberta leaves. They will force a referendum on whomever is the premier, and they'll massively choose to follow Alberta.
Yeah.
And we're going to push for that as well.
We're going to follow right through with that. I just hope that Scott Moe gets on board and he does all the same things that Danielle Smith did. Even though Danielle Smith isn't outright supporting it, she is letting democracy go forward. And she took away a lot of the barriers that were standing in the way of Alberta independence.
And even just by doing that and with doing that, but if she continues to uphold actual democracy and the will of the citizens, she will make history, especially when Alberta becomes independent.
2 more comments, and then we're going to go over to RUM.
We're almost done. I can read them all quick. I can read them all quickly.
Okay.
Sam says, Keith Wilson posted a new video 10 seconds ago. We'll watch it afterwards.
We'll be watching it. We would have watched it live on the show if I would have known.
If you don't respond quickly, then I can get through them. James B says, yes, Carney has 92% in the USA, lives there, his children go to school there, etc. Yeah, we talked about that yesterday. Sam says, did you see Carney's wife rise up from hell and give a talk the other day? We played it. It's scary. She's
the new
creepy.
world order.
She's a
the fact that
she's
they
a
just
lizard
keep saying
person.
that over and over, like, oh.
She's a lizard person. Rage Machine Against Machine says, John doing a great job. Yes, John Bolton is great.
John Bolton
Bolton's
and
awesome.
John talking to Albertans as well.
Yeah.
So a lot of good Johns in Alberta.
Yes. Troglodyte says, Trump boogeyman used by the global commies. Yeah. Global commies, yes. Sam says, Orange Man bad, Carney our savior. I mean, that's the derangement that continues to play in Canada. Tuna Soul Silver says, what are you doing? Being Canadian means taking zero accountability for their own incompetence. That is the new brand of what actually, what Canada is, and globally as well. Troglodyte says, she's a banshee. Carney's wife.
Well, for the next 3 years, Canada is just going to become a dictatorship now that they got a majority and probably going to start moving towards a supermajority.
Sam says, woke is alive and well in Ireland. Oh, it's well embedded in there.
Yeah, and I've talked about this a lot. I follow Irish politics very closely. I well integrated with the Irish community. I've always worked at a lot of Irish bars as a bouncer. I taught a lot of MMA fighters in jiu-jitsu that half of them had to be from Ireland. But you're either a full-on patriot or you're full-on woke. There's no in between in Ireland.
Hold on. James B says the new Alberta government will make money as the people will buy things with the extra money as well.
Yeah.
Smile to Everyday Life says, I don't mind to pay taxes for my country, Alberta, for our healthcare and infrastructure. But I'm sure, I mean, and with everything Alberta does have, it could be, the whole system could be thought over a lot better than what happens in Canada. Sam says they'll keep the money they already make. Jesse GP says, no, hold on.
Okay, one more comment, and then that's it. We're going to go over to RUMBLA because I want to make sure people can roll right into the fringe if they want to, or they can follow us over to RUMBLA.
As RZX says, F. Polyev will never be prime minister. But then they're trying to say, like, Alberta will never be independent. Yes, it will, and you will see, and then you'll eat your words.
It's 7 o'clock. We're moving over now.
And James, I will. Don't worry about it. We're moving over to RUMBLE now. Thank you so much for staying and watching the whole stream. We'll see you over at RUMBLE. There's a 30-second break, and then we'll talk about stories that YouTube doesn't like that much.
Yeah.
So we'll see you over there in a second. The channel name is down there, RUMBLE.